satellite image of the entirety of Iran. Were Iran to launch something literally the size of a grapefruit, I mean a grapefruit, this technology is called the X-band radar. This technology would pick it up upon launch, transmit the trajectory and a bunch of other things that we don't talk about to the IDF. The IDF would lock onto it so that the Israelis could make a decision to take it out, not as it entered Israeli airspace, but somewhere over Iranian airspace. Now think about this. Think about this. When you're a country that is about 6 miles long at your narrowest width, every yard is the difference between life and death. I mean, every yard is the difference between life and death. So the ability to take out an Iranian missile as it comes into Israel versus as it's leaving Iran is a big strategic advantage to the Israelis. And that program is part of the ballistic missile defense initiative that began under George Bush W. and was continued, and the funding was increased by over $250 million in total. A good part of that was increased by President Obama and the Congress on a bipartisan basis. Not a lot of people talk about it, but it is a lifesaver for Israel. Let me make my final point. It kind of comes back to where I began. I'm fundamentally optimistic. With all this, it's Tisha B'Av, so it's a serious contemplative spirit. And with all these challenges, Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas and Al-Qaeda and all these challenges, believe it or not, I have a fundamental optimism about what's going to happen in the future. I feel good about what's going to happen with respect to Israel. And I feel good, it's not just a naive optimism. I pride myself on my gritty realism, not a sense of optimism or pessimism. But let me tell you where I get my optimism from. I get it from my grandparents. I tell people, if you really want to understand anybody, no matter who it is, you don't have to do any research on them. You don't have to do any homework. You don't have to look them up on Wikipedia or read the Almanac of American Politics. You want to know about Chuck Levine, you want to know about Judy Jacobs, you want to know about me, you want to know about the rabbi, you want to know about anybody, all you have to do is show up and see what they have hanging on their walls. Because what we put on our walls, it's the narrative of our lives. Think about this. You really, and I believe you think about what you're going to put on your walls. It's your comforts. Reflect your values. It tells your story. So don't do any research on anybody. Just show up and see what they're hanging on the walls. I'll tell you everything you need to know about them. Hanging on my walls in Washington, D.C., closest to my desk in Congress, are the original immigration certificates of 2 of my grandparents, Michael Kuznitsky and Ray Barnes. I lost them many years ago, but they've been my best political consultants. When I have a tough vote, I look at those certificates, and I look at their pictures on those certificates, and I say, what should I do? What would give me an office? How should I handle this? And I look in the eyes of those pictures, and I see unimaginable horror that puts the annoyances and challenges that we have today in perspective. They fled Russia. My grandmother was smuggled in a hay cart because our family story, I've never been able to authenticate this because my grandmother refused to talk about it, but our family story is her eyes, the eyes that I look at, saw her father murdered by Russian Cossacks. I see in their eyes hopelessness and fear, persecution, prosecution, anti-Semitism, poverty, beatings. Unimaginable reflections in those eyes. But I also see something else in those eyes, and it is what gives me optimism. I see eyes just wide open to the opportunity of the country that they came to with those certificates. I don't think that when those pictures were taken early in the 20th century, that my grandparents ever would have thought that they'd be hanging in the United States Capitol, placed there by a grandson with the title Congressman, who would go into the Oval Office of the White House and say to the President of the United States, Mr. President, I understand your position, I just disagree with it. Who would come on Tisha B'Av to a synagogue and talk about the future. They couldn't think that that was possible. But I have to believe that they must have believed, Rabbi, that if it was possible anywhere, it was only possible in this country. Only in this country. So, not on behalf of me, and not on behalf of Congressman Levine, and not on behalf of Legislator Jacobs, or Gary Kessler, or Ann, or the Rabbi, but on behalf of Minor Kuznitsky and Ray Volovitz, I want to thank you for giving me the privilege of fighting for our community and our values, for a prosperous economy and growing middle class in the United States, and for the security and stability and permanence of the state of Israel. Thank you all very much.